Hello there, welcome back to Zero Production Value Movie Reviews. As always, I am Eric Hoernke, and today I'm going to be discussing the 2020 film The Rhythm Section, directed by Morano. So this is from the producers of James Bond, which was interesting to me because I didn't think the producers of James Bond, Wilson-Broccoli combo, did anything but James Bond. But I guess maybe with James Bond facing an uncertain future, they've decided to try to branch out. In any case, this is a female-led revenge action picture. More of, I'm not going to go revenge fantasy that far, but kind of along those lines. This is trying to hew kind of much to a more real-world sort of narrative, as opposed to, I think of things like Columbiana and Peppermint, where those were female-led protagonist revenge movies, but those were much more slick, glossy, where this, I think, seems to be trying to be more grounded. But ultimately, while it's not a bad idea, the end product comes out kind of muddled, labored, and just somewhat unbelievable, and confusing to some degree. So in those other movies that I mentioned, like I said, they're female-led protagonist revenge movies, and they experience a tragic loss, and that gives the impetus to turn them into this revenge-minded, avenging angel who is going to, make the ones who did whatever was done, usually killing loved one or ones, and make them pay. A big difference in those films as well is, so we enter those movies and they're already formed into these badasses who are experts in martial arts and who have managed to accumulate every weapon under the sun and are now experts at subterfuge and have more in common with Batman than they do with any sort of Susie homemaker that they may have used to be. This movie, The Rhythm Section, is a very different movie. It's at the other end of the spectrum. And Blake Lively, who stars as this woman, Stephanie Patrick, is much more of a lost lamb seeking escape and oblivion because of her tragic loss, as opposed to any real thoughts about revenge. So we come to find out that her parents, and I believe it's 2 siblings, die in a plane crash, accident, explosion, and we come to find out that it was a terrorist bombing. So this causes Blake Lively's Patrick to just basically spin, out of control. And like I said, I don't think any thoughts of revenge, at least at the outset, are on her mind. So what happens is a reporter who has been writing a very investigative, or I guess not writing, but cobbling together all the data and stuff to write this investigative journalist piece, stumbles across her just sort of randomly, and he claims to know who is responsible for, the terrorist bombing. And he's writing this story, and she ends up going back to his place, and he's got one of those like conspiracy theory laden apartments with, walls with all kinds of pictures and lines crisscrossing, and we're supposed to get from that ooh, this guy is legit and he knows what he's talking about. He's the one with the real understanding. So also he tells her he's been working close with a former MI6 contact, which lends him more credibility. And then he is suddenly killed. So the next step is she steals a bunch of his data, and she figures out where this MI6 contact is, who's Jude Law, played by Jude Law, and she convinces him to help her, because all of a sudden now she's got a bug up her ass to go and get revenge, I guess. And ultimately we get sort of a Rocky montage sort of thing towards her becoming a legit badass might actually be able to pull off some of this revenge. And he becomes the Burgess Meredith to her Stallone, the Mickey to her Rocky, as she is trying to transform herself. And once again, you can see that they're definitely trying for a more realistic approach and trying to show you like what would actually be involved and what it would entail in order to go from zero to, you know, essentially an international assassin, you know, for lack of a better word. So, and they keep demonstrating that it's not the easiest of processes, because as we go, she gets, you know, obviously she finally gets put out into the field, and they're like, all right, we're going to go and we're going to send you against the guy. And she keeps messing up. She messes up left and right. I don't think any like kill, like she's like, all right, that guy was involved, go kill him. That guy was involved, go kill him. And nothing goes easy. No, you know, one guy she can't kill, another guy she gets into a fight and almost gets killed herself. It's just like, it's like one thing after another with her, which does probably lend credence to how things would really go, especially if you're doing it on a very condensed timeline. But despite going for all this realistic intention, it also kind of makes it less enjoyable to watch. And the plot still lacks a lot of plausibility. It lacks true understanding of her motivation. You know, her motivation is murky and unclear, and at times you don't even know what she's really doing. This film relies too much on happenstance. She seems to be not in control of anything. She is just getting told, like, hey, go do that. Oh, hey, I heard this guy is doing this. And it goes from the MI6 agent, from the reporter to the MI6 agent, and then there's an information broker played by Sterling K. Brown. And it's these people just telling her stuff that she just has to believe. And I wondered if we were going to enter sort of a Wanted, if you remember the movie Wanted, where, you know, spoiler alert, by the end of that movie, he figured out that they were getting these names of people to assassinate, and like long ago it just became them feeding them names of people they just wanted to kill and didn't, quote unquote, deserve assassination, as it were. So finally, she makes a call to do things her way. Like, she breaks away from the people just telling her to do things. But nothing really seems to change. I mean, if you watch it, I'm like, all right, what is her way? Oh, her way is just like the old way, but her way? Okay. And then she finally has this revelation on her own, apparently, because I didn't see anybody feed it to her. And it comes with sort of a decision and a revelation, and you're kind of like, what? And that just came out of the blue, and you're like, all right. It's just like they're making connections and stuff with no real data and no real understanding of just what's going on. It lacks complete comprehension. And once again, so I could see the film that they were trying to make, going for this gritty, you know, real world with gravitas of this truly wounded person, and we see her wounded, we see her on the bottom, and we see her pull herself back up. You know, it's kind of like, if you think of those Columbiana and Peppermint movies as like James Bond, this is more of the Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, you know, like a more from a glitzy action spy movie to a more real world feasible spy movie. But in Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, they did that really well. It had a Oscar caliber script and the actors and the plot and everything to back it up and actually make that a pretty damn good movie. And this just, the plot doesn't hold up. The script doesn't do the plot any justice. It doesn't make any sense. So you can make this movie well, and I just don't think they took the time to really put the detail and the minutia into the plot that would have been needed in order to make this real world assassin revenge movie a believable one. And if you're going for real world and believability, then you can't sacrifice on those things. I mean, you can do that in like the Columbianas and the Peppermints of the world, because you're just suspending your disbelief to be like, yep, these girls are badasses, I'm just going with it. But you can't do that in this movie because that's not how they're selling it. Ultimately, I'd rather go see one of those action-packed revenge movies rather than just a novice, fumbling around, just barely trying to keep her head above water. And then all of a sudden, through no fault of her own, everything just clicks and she's on her way. It did not work for me at all. So, overall, I'm going to give the rhythm section, directed by Morano, a D+. I love you. I appreciate you. Thanks for watching my review. I appreciate you watching it. I enjoyed making it. Like, subscribe, leave comments. As always, I am Eric Hoernke, that rhymes with turnkey, and this has been a production of Zero Value. Thanks for watching. Alright. Please tell me I actually gave that fucking movie a D+.